All right, so welcome. Today we're going to cover showings, which a lot of people might think is fundamental and easy, and you're right, it is. But you're also underperforming if that's all you think of it, right? Like you probably have noticed, Ryan. I know you're a new face, but we have a system wrapped around everything. And the way I describe it to people that don't understand it is if I'm going to do anything for a second time, I'm going to wrap a system around it so that I have a duplicatable and repeatable process, because it's only by doing things the same way every time that you can have the right to predict the outcome, right? So if it's meeting with a buyer, the outcome I want is signed agency agreement and a showing appointment booked. If it's a seller appointment, I want a signed listing agreement. Well, those are outcomes that I desire, but if I approach those meetings differently every time, the outcome is now up to chance, right? And I don't want to do that. Scott likes to say hope is not a strategy, right? So you might be wondering, what on earth do we need a system for when it comes to showing houses? Who thought that when you saw the email I sent out? Anybody? Janice did. I love that. She's the only one brave enough to say. Yeah. The rest of you are like, even if I thought that, I wouldn't say that today. So here's what we're going to do, though. We're going to cover kind of what your goals are for that engagement. We're going to talk about how you prepare. This is a really critical piece, because being ready for that event is what gives you the ability to drive the outcome that you're seeking, right? We're going to talk about what you do during the showing, and then we're going to talk about what you do after the showing, right? And all of this then hopefully culminates with an offer strategy session, right? So this video that we're making today, this training, is then followed by the training we covered last week with offers, right? So feel free to shoot pics of these slides as we go. I sent out last week's PowerPoint and people started printing all 45 pages of it. Please don't do that. I send it to you so you can have it on your computer, not so that you can burn up my toner and my copy. Okay. This one is less than half that length, so I may send it out if you guys want, but please don't print it. All right, so let's talk about the overall strategy. Right? What's your goal when you're showing houses?
Know you connect better.
So you want to drive sort of engagement and rapport building and all that. Okay, that's one thing for sure.
Write an offer.
That's your ultimate goal,
Yeah.
right? You want to find something that they like enough that they buy it, right? Or at least write an offer. What's your client's goal?
You want to know what your client is looking for, and you're listening to them so that you can understand and learn what it is that they're looking for. Thereby increasing the amount of time you actually go and show them a million houses.
There.
What they want.
Now you're getting into it, Robin, and that's exactly right. We're trying to drive down the number of showings. That's our goal as an agent, right? The client's goal is just to find the right house. They don't have a concept of, well, and I'd like to do it in 5 or fewer showings, right? They don't care about that. What they care about is finding the right house, right? We just want to do it as efficiently as possible. Does anyone know what the record is in this company for fewest showings before a house went into escrow?
How may I help you?
One? No.
No.
Hello.
0. Client saw it on an open house. I'm not the only one that's done this, but others have too. Client saw it, I wrote the offer, put it in escrow. Never once got in the car with them. Now, is that a mistake? Not from where I stand.
Sometimes we've got.
Is that following our process? Remember earlier I said our goal when I met with them the first time was signed agency agreement, check, book for showing appointment. Well, I didn't even show, right? But we had the book showing appointment, and it was after the weekend, so they went out and toured some homes on their own and found one they loved. So I happened to be traveling on the weekend. So that works, right? How do you think, can we achieve both those things?
Let me try to look this up here.
Right? Is it possible to find them the perfect home?
Where did you-
Are
where
those
did you
two
see
goals
that
at odds?
listed at?
No. You don't even have to share with them that your goal is to do it as efficiently as possible. I'm not sure they would even be offended if your goal was to do it as efficiently as possible. All they care about is that you're learning, as Robin pointed out, as Janice pointed out, you're understanding, right? You're able to see homes through their eyes. That's a really powerful thing.
Deal with a lot of banks and such.
And that we find the perfect home.
Bear with me a moment here, Will.
The best way to do it is to follow a process, though.
So you're looking for a
Right.
home
That's-
to live in, or?
That's how we accomplish this goal more so
Okay.
than this goal, right? The perfect home is gonna be a function of inventory and finding off-market opportunities and all the other tools that we talk about. Being efficient at it really comes down to preparation and execution.
Out some rental properties, I have an idea.
Right.
What if I could get you?
So here's how you should think about it.
Bank foreclosures and estate.
Every
sales,
weekend,
other
you have
market
4
sellers.
showing
All
windows.
best deals before they're on the MLS. would be
Right.
the best.
Morning and
Hold on
afternoon,
Before anyone else.
Saturday
There's
and
no cost
Sunday.
or obligation. You think that would
Could I
give
show
you
5
search?
clients on the weekend? Of course, right?
Great.
It depends how many homes you wanna go
We
see.
can sit down for like 15 minutes, so we can take down.
How many
exact
homes
criteria.
should you see when you go out? What's the maximum? 5, 6, 16?
Our main
Okay.
office is-
Justin's a
where I work at
glutton
it, but we've
for,
got guys that work
the
all
problem
over
with
Seattle
16
area.
is they all blend together, right? I mean, I've personally looked at too many houses as a buyer. This was before I even had my license. And my wife would say, I love that one that was blah.
Yeah.
And I was
we've
like,
got
I
some-
don't even
we're
remember
very-
that
pretty
one.
much
Did we go in
got
that? I don't
everybody.
remember that. And she goes, the blue one.
Now,
Oh,
in
yeah,
front
yeah,
of me, so
okay.
I can.
Right? You need to coach your clients because they'll make the same mistake.
Saturday or
Right?
Sunday?
We found 18 houses, we can't wait to see them. You know what, 18 is probably too many. Can you pare it down to your top 5 or 6? Because 5 or 6 is about the most someone can see and still keep straight in their mind, right? And I'm gonna teach you a technique today that will help them eliminate all of them but one, so that they only have to remember one. All right, so 5 or 6 is the optimum. You also could do evenings, right? Now, if you have a client that's self-employed and wants to go out
Yeah,
on
I
a
can-
Tuesday during the day, of course you're gonna do that. But they're the
What
exception,
about-
right? Typical
What if we did
buyer
11 or
has a
30?
job and can only go see them on evenings and weekends, right? You need to be willing to do that. If you follow our Foundation for Success training and you're building a business, we talk about how you should have 2 evenings a week dedicated to this, and at least 1 weekend day, if not 2, while you're building it, and then you take it down to 1 weekend day so that you have time with your family. Does that make sense?
Okay. And you use email, Joe?
It's also really, really important that you get buy-in from your family or your significant others. There's nothing worse and more stressful on a marriage or a relationship than you being always gone.
Okay, I've got
Right.
JOE.
And it's the lack of predictability that makes it more stressful. When your significant other is thinking they're gonna see you and then they can't, it's crushing, right? Because you're awesome, right? I know I am.
Okay.
But if I map out a
And
schedule
that's it. Where again?
and my family can expect that I will always be home Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights because I'm showing windows Tuesdays and Thursdays, or vice versa. And they can always plan on seeing me on Sundays because I'm going to show houses on Saturdays. It lowers the stress for them and for you when you get buy-in. Because your kids or your spouse or whomever, they can just bank on the fact they're going to see you on Sunday, right? You decide which weekend day it is, but then commit to that.
Trying to find out.
And there's a technique to use with consumers to steer them to the windows that you want, right? I've had clients that say, I can only look at houses on Friday nights, no other time during the week, period. Friday nights was date night. It's a non-negotiable. Can I say that to a customer though? I could, but I risk losing them, and I don't want to lose them. So instead I say, oh, Friday nights, okay, I can do that. My next available Friday night is April 7th, a month and a half from now, or whatever, right? Pick something way the hell out in the future. And they go, well, I'm sorry, I literally have commitments all the way up till then, but I'll plug you in for April 7th, okay? Okay, yeah, plug me in. What about Saturday? All of a sudden they have windows open up in their calendar and you can steer them into your windows. That make sense? It's empowering and liberating for all involved. Also, especially after the first wave of houses that you look at, you can then start looking at houses sort of onesie-twosie style. And that can oftentimes be done on a lunch hour, right? If your buyer is a Boeing engineer, but a new house came on the market, and in this market, you want to move fast, right?
615.
Because you wait till Saturday, that thing's probably sold. I have a client right now that wants to go look at this house on Saturday, and has been saying that since Monday. And every day, I'm like, how about tonight? How about tomorrow night? How about, can't till Saturday? Okay, just know that there's a good chance it'll be sold. And I'm not going to say hopefully it is sold, but if it were sold, I'd turn that into a benefit.
Old list.
Because now I can use that as motivation for the next one, right?
Yeah, I got the right ad. Yeah. So that's-
Anybody done lunchtime showings, one-off kind of deals? Donald, I know you have. Janice,
Okay,
you have.
that
Right. It works, right?
256th
And they really
Street, that
appreciate it. They
was
feel like
before?
you're giving up your lunch hour. What you really did is made what would normally be a 3-hour showing window
256
a
down
1-hour
to
showing window, which is a benefit to you too.
260.
Make sense? Preparation, all right? Russell Wilson fans? What does he say? The separation is in the preparation, right? Seems to have worked out pretty well for him over his career. Worked out pretty well for us over our careers too, and you are going to enjoy it as well. So, how do you pick out?
A lot of properties on the market. So
Their criteria drives a result, right? In this market, their criteria might drive a result that is only one house. But in a normal market, you might get 8 to 10 houses and you send them and you give them coaching and say, pick your favorite 4, 5, maybe 6.
I'm not seeing it on our off-market.
Because
list.
we found that's about all a buyer can handle in one showing appointment, because they start to blend
What's your last
together.
name, Joe?
The same thing I said earlier, right? I communicate that directly to my client because I don't want
What
them
was your
to say,
last
yeah,
name?
let's go see all 10, right? Once you pick the houses,
Oh, okay.
you then are going
So
to
here's
print
what I'll do.
reports
I'll,
to bring with you.
I'll
The
send you
full
an
report and
email
the client
to
report.
confirm. Oh, and
Right?
I'll ask you one other thing. Please. Are you gonna be buying the house?
When I meet with clients, I give them a packet of the houses we're going to go see. Hey, these are the homes we're going to see, and they're in the order we're going to
Another
see
investor, or
them,
is that-
so that you can follow
Spin-off or
along and
something?
take notes if you want. Give them something tactile that they can hang on to and write
What's that?
on. Bring a spare pen if you have.
Oh, another investor?
In my car, I have
Okay.
spare pens, I have spare flashlights. I was in a house on Saturday, I walked,
And do you already have
realized
your
that there was
financing in order?
REO and
Reason why I
utilities
asked,
were off,
we can
ran back out to my car,
get
grabbed
the
3
free second
flashlights,
opinion.
gave one to the kids, one to the parents, and kept one myself, and said, how many people do you know that have flashlights in this quantity in their car? And they're like, none. I go, well, just for this reason, right? But I'm gonna give them the reports. Then I'm gonna print also the map report, and I use that as a cover sheet for their packet, so they can kind of see the neighborhood and the layout of the land, right?
Oh, yeah.
Who knows what
Yeah,
PTS stands for?
I dealt with our bonus before those.
Phone to show.
We want
That's
to
right.
give you a better.
That's the phone number you
opportunity
call
if we could, so.
to schedule a
I'll
showing.
I'll follow up.
You can also
with you
use
with
showing
email
time,
to confirm the
which is a
appointment
link
date.
in the listing
And,
to
in
schedule
that
a
too,
show.
I'll put our preferred lenders.
I actually
contact
prefer to use the phone to
information
show
contact you.
for a reason that I'm gonna share with you here in a
so
sec.
just, you know,
That allows me to sort of be proactive and
can take
control
the hard money and
my
figure
schedule
it out,
better
but we
than
can tell
clicking
you
on a
about
button and waiting for someone to respond.
Awesome, okay.
But you call phone to show as soon as you
All right,
know
Joe, I'll-
when your
I'll
client
be
and you are
sending you
going
an
out,
email here
right?
All right, thanks, Joe.
What if a property is tenant occupied? What do you have to do? 24 hours, that's right, Jay. Landlord-tenant law requires that we give them 24 hours notice. Whoa, booked appointment. And now we got cowbell on the video, I like that. All right, so 24 hours notice, well that means you should probably be scheduling your showings on a Thursday if you're going out Saturday, right? Or at least looking at them to see if they're tenant occupied. Right? The agent remarks will almost always tell you if there's some sort of required notice. Usually, 2 or 4 hours notice, please, or something to that effect. Read those. We are not an unprofessional firm. We don't just show up at houses. There's going to be chances and opportunities where you're asked by your client to just show up unprofessionally at a house. Can you envision a scenario where you're driving around a neighborhood and you see a for sale sign that wasn't in your packet, and your client says, ooh, can we see that one? Right? That can happen. You don't just go let yourself in. Right? That's an MLS violation. It's rude and it's unprofessional. We don't do that. You also should be thinking, there might be a reason why it didn't show up in my search. Number one reason in this market is it's probably under contract, right? Another reason could be it's over the price range that your client has said they're limited to, right? There's usually a reason why it didn't show up, and you want to look in your phone first to see what that reason is. HomeSpotter is a great app that the MLS provides and feeds data to. It's easier to navigate, and you literally can open it, click on an arrow, and it'll bring you to the neighborhood you're in, and you'll see, oh, there's that house, and it's pending, or whatever, right? All right, so how do you decide what order to see them in? Why don't you folks that have sold a lot of houses, tell me your technique. What's your technique? Janice, how do you pick?
I call the most difficult appointment first, let's say tenant.
Okay.
Then I call they have to call to show.
Yeah.
Then I leave the calendar and so then I can schedule.
Okay. Yeah. That's one way to do it. Right? She uses the most difficult one to schedule as sort of the anchor and then wraps the other ones around it, right? When you do that approach, Janice, is that, let's say the tenant occupied one geographically is sort of in the middle. Will you schedule it for noon so that you can schedule before and after the other ones?
Yeah.
Or do you just go there first and then backtrack and go forward?
I just around that time, maybe I show some, then I have all the time set up.
Yeah.
Then I started to look at the map and try to schedule so I don't need to drive back and forth.
Right.
So it's
Right.
a combined approach.
Right? So if I'm showing houses in Bellevue, there's one here, two there, one. I'm going to pick a route that is logical and efficient. Because remember, our goal, be efficient. I also will show the furthest one away from my office or my home. If it's Saturday and I'm not going to, at the end, go back to the office, I'm going to go home. I'll show the one that's furthest away and work my way back closer to my home or office so that when we're done, I can go home. All right? That saves me from having an hour drive after a day of showings, which can be exhausting, right? And it is tiring. Showing a bunch of houses in one day, you're wiped at the end because you're always on point. We're going to talk about how you speak and what you do during the showing, but it takes a lot of focus and attention. Your brain is at work the whole time, and then you're tired at the end, right?
You didn't mention, though, that there might be a strategy based on some criteria. Is that not ever taken in?
Like you're saying if there's one that you think is the best house, you might show it last. I do that, but not to my own detriment geographically. So, this is a good example where I could do that, right? Because Bellevue's not huge. But if I had somebody that wanted to look in Sumner and then Tacoma and then Federal Way, you know. We're gonna talk about a game called King of the Hill. And King of the Hill allows you to handle that issue, whether that was the first house or the last house. I will, if I think geographically the house that's furthest away from the office, where I would normally start, if I think that one likely is to be the King of the Hill, I might go in reverse order and go against my earlier advice of finishing closer to home, because I do want to set it up so that when we get to that house, they're like, wow, this is the one. Right? So Jay's question and her point is valuable, but you're going to manage that depending on how far you're driving and where you're going. That make sense? All right. Then we're going to stack the sheets in the order that we expect to go to these houses. And you'll notice I haven't considered whether they're tenant occupied yet. Right now it's all about sequential efficiency. Right? Did you have a question?
Just a comment, if you go back to the map part, if you go on Google Maps and enter all the addresses, you can filter for time to see how long it'll take from one home to the other, and then pick your route that way. That's how I do it.
There are sites actually, there's GPSvisualizer.com. You can enter addresses and it'll tell you what route to drive them in. That service is a pay service, so I use it when I need to, but for the most part I just eyeball it. But yeah, there's a bunch of ways to be efficient. There are GPS apps that will sort of maximize the efficiency and sort them for you.
So you mean I put all the house address together and one address?
Depends on which app, but most of them you enter them separated by commas, you put them all in at once.
I thought there was a thing on MLS that actually did that for you. You
Yeah,
just put
this-
in all the listings and it'll do
That
that.
thing. Yeah.
So I should take my order back. Actually, I look at the map first, then I start to count the whole one.
Yeah.
Because I do have a time in mind. Like, let's say,
Where you
according
want
to the map, probably 2 o'clock is the best for me.
Right.
Then I just do 2 o'clock,
Work
okay.
from there.
Yeah, but if the tenant say, no, you have to be 3, then I just work around that.
Yeah. I think we end up doing the same thing. It's just a matter of, you start with the ideal and then you adjust if you have to adjust. Jay is right. This is called, I think it's called Intrex, and it will measure distances and commute times and do that for you. But like I said, there's dozens of apps you could use. In this example, I don't need an app. I don't need to spend the time typing into something to just know that I'm going to go with this one, and that one. Right? All right, so then we stack the sheets. We put the map first and then the client full reports behind it. You guys know the difference between the full report and the client full report, right? It just doesn't have selling office commissions, it doesn't have the agent only remarks, and that's basically it. Right? And then I leave 45 minutes between each showing. The first time I go out with somebody, this is what I use. If I figure out that they're fast lookers, some families, some couples, some buyers are, then I can shorten this. Right? Also, in my example, we're in Bellevue, so we're never more than 10 minutes from each house. But 45 minutes gives me 30 minutes to look at a house, 15 minutes to travel to the next one. If I got somebody that's moving to the area from out of state and they want to check out the south end and then check out the north end or whatever, I got to plan differently. But on average, the typical buyer is focused on a certain community, and I do this. Right? Then I call the phone to show. I also pay very close attention to whose number the phone to show is. Right? Because it doesn't say, it just says PTS and it has a phone number. But if you look up above at the other phone numbers, you'll be able to see, is it the agent? Is it the owner? Might be a third party, I don't know. Most of the time it's the agent or the owner though, right? What if it's all zeros? The vacant home, no need to call. For a long time, this was an MLS violation, which really pissed me off. Because they were saying, no, you have to put in an actual phone number or we're gonna fine you. And then they finally changed the rules. So when you see all zeros, that means it's vacant. It probably says vacant in 2 other places in the listing, but maybe you didn't notice. And it's all zeros. What if it says vacant, but there is a phone to show number? Still need to call. You can pretty much guarantee that wherever timing-wise you want to put it, you're going to be able to put it because it's vacant. But you, as a professional courtesy, you have to call. It is an MLS violation if there's a number and you don't call it.
And sometimes there is an alarm system, so you have to call the code.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially in your high-end properties. But that's a good point, right? If there's an alarm system and you didn't know about it, that could be a problem. I have a buddy that I have a picture of him handcuffed on the front porch of a house. So don't put yourself in that position, okay? He was in Atlanta, so don't worry. All right. If you get voicemail, what should you say? Let's role play it, Veronica. What would you say?
I will let them know that what specific time I would like to go to show the house to my clients.
Okay.
Yeah, and if it's okay, I want them to give me a response or, yeah.
One subtle difference between what you just said and what I do. I want to say it in a way where it's clear I'm not expecting a call back. I don't care if they call me
Just show
back.
at that time, just let them know.
Yes. Hey, it's Ed with Hometown Advisor Real Estate. I'm calling about your listing on 1234 Main Street. I'm planning to show it tomorrow at noon. If that's a problem, please call me back. Otherwise, I will show and let your broker know what my clients thought. And I don't even leave my phone number deliberately. They're going to call from caller ID if that's a problem. If it's an agent, listing agent, I just changed the last sentence. I will show and let you know what my clients thought. You see the difference between what Veronica said and what I said? And you see the benefit of how I say it. So just tweak what you would say and make it easier on yourself. Because now I've left 6 voicemails, and you'd be amazed how often you get voicemail. I've left 6 voicemails. My schedule's set. We're going. I'd much rather, I'll come right back to you. I'd much rather have the rare instance where I get a call back that says, sorry, noon doesn't work, and adjust. But that has such an insignificant percentage of the time, because think about it, that seller wants you to show, they want to sell their house, right? Jamie, do you have a question?
Because you just say it, I mean, why not leave the phone number?
Why not leave the phone number?
Because you say,
I'm-
then they come back.
I'm discouraging phone calls. Is that bad or unprofessional of me?
He doesn't want them to call you back. Yeah.
Is that bad?
Interrupt your schedule.
What do you think, York?
I think this is smart, and you just don't leave him any space. Just
Yeah.
tell him that I'm going, and also giving him a very aggressive, position, saying that, and he will think you're a professional and he will
Yeah,
respect.
and I say it with charm and character in my voice. Hey, this is Ed Lane with Hometown Advisor Real Estate. I just wanted to let you know, I'm going to be showing your listing on Main Street tomorrow at noon. If that's a problem, for any reason, let me know. Otherwise, we'll take a peek and I'll let you know what we thought. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Click. No phone number. On to the next phone to show, right? Because think about it, you're making probably 6 phone calls. You'd like to make them efficiently. I actually like when I get voicemail because then I can use this technique. Any questions on that before we move on?
So just providing notice is ample enough for whatever the MLS rules might be?
Yep, yep.
You don't need
If it's
confirmation?
tenant occupied, you just gotta make sure that notice is 24 hours before you're showing. Now, I have had like clients that said, oh, I wanna add this one. And it turns out to be tenant occupied. And they're adding it the night before or the morning of, where I know I'm not giving 24 hours. I'll have to be much more deferential than this, and I'll include my phone number. I'm still gonna use a presumptive close though. hey, I know, Ryan, this is less than 24 hours. I'm really sorry. I hope your tenant is accommodating because we're only missing 24 hours by a couple hours here. So we're going to go ahead and swing by. If we get there and it's a problem, we'll leave, I promise. But I wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
And I will leave my phone number in that instance, because if it's an angry tenant, I want to know, and I'm going to skip it and just tell my client, hey, I tried to add it, but it's tenant occupied and I have to give them more than 24 hours. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to see it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if you ever run into a situation where when you don't leave the number and it's not an agent probably has a cell phone, but if you're calling the owner and they don't have a way to see your phone number and they go, no, I can't, how could they get back to you? Would that be a problem?
I guess it could be. Hasn't been in 15 years. I mean, she's right? If I'm leaving that on a landline, and let's say they have a rotary phone and no caller ID or something, and I'm not being facetious, there's lots of people that don't have caller ID. This will piss them off. I'll show up and they'll tell me I'm a jerk. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you didn't have caller ID, or did I not leave my phone number? I'm sorry.
Is your background in acting?
Ha. Yes, Robin.
With the 24-hour thing, can't we just like call the agent really quick and say, hey, I see the phone show 24 hours. How's the seller feel about that? Are they pretty lenient? Can I go show like in an hour or whatever? Because if the listing agent says, yeah, that's okay, then that kind of gives you out, doesn't it?
Yeah, but for me, it still just depends on what the phone to show number is. A lot of tenant occupied will have the listing agent number as the phone to show, so I end up calling them anyway. But there are some where it's the tenant, and it's not the seller's decision as much as it is the tenant's, right? So if the tenant's number is in there, that's even better, because then I can call and say, they're going to hear the sincerity in my voice. Hey, I realize you're entitled to this, and I am really sorry, but my client just sprang this on me. Would it be at all possible for us to come by? I know it's only 22 hours notice. If it's 4 hours notice, I'm going to say it the same way. I know you're entitled to this. We just had to at least ask. And when you say it with sincerity, a lot of tenants, unless they're angry, right? We've had that conversation, Ashley. Most tenants, they don't despise their landlord, right? So they'll say, all right, you can come by. They're going to make you feel bad, but they'll accommodate you. All right. So now I have these sheets, and I have them in the order that I want, right? I want to actually mark them up. Not the client's version with the map on top, but my version, right? Because I'm going to be taking notes on these sheets the entire time that we're together. Well, the notes better include when I'm scheduling the appointment, who I spoke with, right? Owner, listing agent, whatever. What was said. If we spoke live, I'm going to put, spoke with owner, okay. That's just my own little stupid, simple code that tells me I got a hold of somebody, right? Because there's times where I have walked up to a door, opened the door, and had someone yell at me from the inside. And I go right back to my notes and I go, because if it's two owners, I'll put SW, which is spoke with, Mr. or Mrs., right? Just MRS. And I hear a male voice yelling at me and I see I spoke with the wife. Oh crap, she didn't tell him. And he might be in the shower, right? This is real life stuff. It happens, and you have to be courteous and professional and exhibit decorum. You ever heard that word, right? So I'm going to take notes so that I can go, I'm really sorry, sir. I spoke with your wife yesterday. Didn't she not tell you? God damn it, she's done this to me twice, right? Now she's the villain, I'm not the villain. Right?
So you put all of those notes in that note.
No, on the sheet.
On the sheet?
Yep. I don't want to have to fish through my phone or my tablet.
Yeah.
I carry a black folio, those folders that are leather, And I have all these sheets in there. So when he's yelling at me, I already have it open, right? Because I'm reading it so that I can communicate with my client about, oh, the year built and the square footage and this and that. And my notes are at the bottom. So when he's yelling at me, I go, I'm really sorry, sir, I spoke with your wife, or whatever, right? It's not lengthy notes. I'll show you an example, right? But I'll have on there who I spoke with, what was said, if the appointment was confirmed. And this is just the bottom of one of those sheets, right? So I start by just typing or handwriting PTS and the time for that first showing, right? And then on the next sheet, 45 minutes later, and the next sheet, 45 minutes later, right? This is all before I made the first phone call, right? Then, left message or spoke with listing agent or Mr. or Mrs., right? A lot of times, it's just that, left message, right? That's all I have to do. Yep. So that would tell me if the husband's yelling at me, I'm really sorry, sir, I left a voicemail yesterday. I could even tell him, I left it at this number. Is that your number? Oh, no, that's our broker. Oh, I'm sorry he didn't tell you. Please don't blame my clients. Would it be possible for us to see it anyway? We're here now. Right? You say it with a softer tone, slower cadence. It's endearing, it's engaging, and it increases the likelihood they say yes. This is all just basic neuro-linguistic programming, right? I'm nodding while I say these things to get him to nod, right? You guys all deliberately didn't nod. There, I noticed. All right? Once it's confirmed, I just blue line, or pen, whatever color, doesn't matter what color. I put a circle around the time. That way, at a glance, I know whether that was confirmed or not. So the only time this isn't there is if it specifically said in the listing, no showings without confirmed appointment. Well, that means I need to change my voicemail that I left, right? I'm going to leave my phone number because I'm going to make it easier for them to get me. And as we get closer to this time, we've already shown the other 3 houses. Now we're coming up to the 4th house. I still haven't been able to confirm it. I can't show it, right? So I probably will have made a couple calls while we were looking at the other houses to that same number saying, hey, I left a message yesterday, still trying to see your house at 12:15 today. We're actually on track to get there right around noon. Is that going to work? Please get back to me, right? Then hopefully they get back to me and I mark it as confirmed. All right? So then I call my client, right? This is all done in my office on the phone. Then I call my client and I say, all right, we're all set for tomorrow. We're all set for Saturday, whatever it is. We're going to meet and leave a car somewhere. How many of you have shown houses where you rode in separate cars? Veronica? Janet? Right? Robin has? I have.
I usually do.
Say, that you don't want. I've done it as few times as possible. So usually do is not a good answer, right? Here's why, right? You want to ride with them. Remember Janice's comment at the beginning. One of the goals for today is to get a tighter bond with your client. And I don't care if it's your 3rd grade teacher and you've known him for 40 years. Ride with them, right? What if they have small kids that need car seats? Move the car seats into your car. That should make you cringe. Jay's a parent, so she knows what a pain in the ass that is, right?
How messy it can be.
My number one goal is to be the driver. If these are, this has only happened a couple times, but I've had clients that say, dude, these seats are such a pain in the ass, we are not moving them, you're riding with us. I'm never going to be argumentative, right? I'm going to say, okie dokie. But what they didn't know is how crushed I am, because my goal was to get them to move their seats into my car. Why do you think I want to drive?
You're in control.
To make them,
Control.
to make them feel they're treated like guests.
Yep,
Yeah.
they're made to feel like kings and queens, right? They also get a better sense of the neighborhoods that we're driving around, when they're not worried about which one are we turning on and all that, right? If there is some compelling reason that they need to drive and you need to drive, yes, you can caravan. But that should be your last resort. So Robin, I want you to amend your approach to this and do everything you can, all right?
Be humble, the tough part is removing the ego out of it, because I have my Beamer, yep, I do, but my Beamer smokes, and
Smokes.
so I drive my little Saturn, and really it's an ego thing for me, where, number one, there's not enough room in my car for leg room and all of that, so I squirrel away in my head, it's an ego thing, it's like it's not good enough to be driving people around. In my head, that's the way I think.
That is the 6 inches between your ears, to quote you, because you used that during success hours today. People don't care. Do they get an impression? Of course, we're human, right? But at the end of the day, they don't care. They're not going to fire you. They're not going to judge you. I probably wouldn't use the smoking BMW. It might be cheaper to get that fixed than, leaky head gasket can be expensive. So get over that, please, because you are a wonderfully charming person, and you're denying and depriving them of that enjoyment, and that enjoyment benefits you. Why would you do that? Does that make sense? If you're kind of an asshole, you might want to use a different approach, but none of you are. So, right? And just let them know, hey, I want to ride with you because I want you to be able to enjoy and sort of take in the neighborhoods, right? And that's part of falling in love with the neighborhood. All right, now we're at the first house. Stress levels are really low at this point because you did all the prep work, right? Now you're just going to observe and interact and encourage. And all of that stuff is pretty fun, right? So what is, just encourage and all that, what does that mean? Well, you've already had a conversation with your buyer about their criteria. You can point out features of the home that meet their criteria. You can even point out features of the home that don't meet their criteria. But I would sort of lay low on that, right? Unless it's a glaring failure that makes that house unacceptable. I don't go around pointing out weaknesses, right? Because if you think about real estate in general, it's really a game of compromise. I'm a buyer, and I have 11 things that I really want in my house. The perfect house will have all 11. There are no houses that have all 11. None. 0. But there are houses that have 8, 9, maybe even 10. And if the one thing that's missing is a deal breaker, that's when I point it out in this house, right? A client on Saturday, they have a daughter that has cerebral palsy. 2-story house, not an option. Right? I didn't know that until we were looking at houses. I knew they had kids, but I never knew one of them was disabled. And they're the ones that picked the houses. And so then it became a deal breaker right before my eyes as we're looking at these houses, right? So you want to validate things that they notice, comment on the quality of the home, if it is quality, right? If it's not, you're not going to say that, right? you want to also use this as an opportunity to demonstrate character and competence of your own. Right? So what does that mean? Well, the technique that I use in almost every client interaction, I should say it differently. Every client I work with has seen this once, because I do it early so that they can go, wow, he's really knowledgeable about construction. Have you ever seen this, Ryan?
Like, are you physically pulling out a cabinet drawer in the kitchen and commenting on?
Yeah, so
It is, yeah.
those of you that are online, you're not going to be able to see this, but I go into the kitchen and I open the drawer. And I set it up by going, these cabinets actually look pretty decent. Do you know how to tell when they're good cabinets versus bad? And they'll go, no. And now they're intrigued, right? They're like, there's a way to tell other than maybe the heft and substantialness of a cabinet. And you go, yeah, here, come over here, let me show you. And I go over to the kitchen drawer, any drawer, and I open it. And as you saw on there, there were no guides on the sides of the drawers, right? So depending on what I'm looking at when I open it, I tell them, well, cheap cabinets have the guides right here on the sides of the drawer. And if that's where they are, I go, so these are kind of cheap cabinets. But then I go on to say, now, medium quality cabinets will actually have the guide cut the bottom edge of the drawer, and really good quality cabinets actually have the guides hidden underneath where you can't see them. That's what those ones are, right? Those are the highest quality. And then there's really an exceptional quality, which is the soft closing drawers. And I'll push the drawer closed. Soft close, you know what soft closing drawers are, right? The anti-finger slamming, right? Those tend to always be the ones that have the hidden guides too, because that's where the mechanism for the soft close sits. That little speech took 45 seconds, and their opinion of my knowledge just went up a few notches because I taught them something they didn't know. Did I demonstrate character and competence just using that little dialogue? Heck yeah, right? Because what happens is they go, if he knows that about cabinets, I wonder what he knows about furnaces and roofs and foundations, and right? So it elevates everything that you say thereafter. You can point out rounded corners. You guys seen rounded corners in sheetrock? Why do you think that is a sign of higher quality construction?
More expensive.
Harder to do and more expensive. You nailed it, right? We were in a house, I went with Shrek to a house last night, probably worth 1.2, 1.3 million. 3/4 of the house had rounded corners, but the other quarter didn't. That's odd. Most people wouldn't notice that, but people like you and I should, right? And if my client is starting to kind of poo-poo the house for reasons other than that, I'll pile on. Once I realize this house isn't for them, I'll go, yeah, you know, this one, there's a couple things that are symptomatic of not a really well-built home. Look at that corner. And they'll go, okay, what about it? And you see how it's at a 90 degree? Now look at that corner. You see how it's rounded? That's a higher quality of construction than that. And it makes you wonder, where else did they cut corners? And they go, oh, that Ed is so smart, right? But I only do that after they've already said, this house is not big enough or whatever, right? Because is it the end of the world that one corner is 90 degrees and the other is rounded? Not really. To a professional, it's noticeable, but to the average person, it's not. So use your experience, right? Ryan, you're newly licensed. What did you do before this?
Online advertising.
Okay. It's hard to apply that to real estate. Was it
really.
real estate related?
No, but it's lead generation.
Okay. Yeah. So you're well suited for the industry, but you'll want to tap into when you were a kid and you did landscape work, or when you painted your own house, or whatever, right? You have experience that makes you more credible, not the least of which is the fact that you will, over some period of time, have looked at, shown, and sold hundreds of houses, right? You ever been an interior designer? Even of your own home, right? Ever worked construction? I worked as a framer. You guys all know what framing is, right?
For picture?
No. Inside this wall are studs. The framer puts up the studs, all the hardwood, and then the sheetrockers come in after. I did that job for 6 months, and for 30 years I've been leveraging that experience and demonstrating character and competence to customers. Right? And I do it pretty simply by saying, yeah, I worked construction before when I first got out of college, I worked construction. And they're like, you did? What do you think of this house? It immediately makes them think that my opinion is more valuable, right? I even use humor. I'll stand in a house and I'll go, I'm kind of a fat ass. This house has got good bones though. And they'll be like, you think? Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many houses I've walked around in, because I'm 6'6", 250, and I walk around and they creak and they shake and it makes me feel like a real fat ass. And they laugh and they go, but this one's good? I go, yeah. Do you feel that? And they say no, and I go, that's exactly why. We'll be in another house and I'll do that, and you will feel the bounce on the other side of the room because it's got, poorly built, or it doesn't have blocking between the floor joists or whatever. I'm throwing terms at them that they don't really know what they mean, but they realize that that's relevant, right? Is a little bit of that smoke and mirrors? Like, am I playing a part? For sure. Anyone uncomfortable playing a part? Jay asked me earlier if I have background in acting. Yeah, I sell real estate. Right? All right, so now we finished touring the first house. Should we just go to the next house?
No.
No? What do you think we should do?
Evaluation?
We want their opinion, right? What did you notice? What did you like? What didn't you like? Right? I explain it to them like a game. I say, you know what? We're going to do this after every showing because it's going to help me see these homes through your eyes. Those are really powerful words because that buyer really appreciates that and they want that help, right? And now you're telling them, not only do I want to give you that help, but I want to do it in a way that it's really valuable to you, not just give you my opinion. I want to understand your opinion, right? So I'm going to ask you what you didn't like. I'll ask you what you did like, and then I'm going to ask you to rate the home on a scale of 1 to 10. Right? 10 being stop the car, cancel the remaining showings, let's go to your office and write an offer. 1 being, what the hell did you bring me here for? And I say it just like that, with a smile, right? And they're like, oh, Ed, we would never say that. No, who knows, right? The problem is how they take the photos could make it look a lot nicer online than we get there, and you're like, why on earth are we even here? And I just want you to know that that's okay, right? I'll even tell them, hey, there could be houses where just driving up, you already know that this ain't the house for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. I could show you a text exchange from Saturday where they got to the first house before I did. It says, the neighbors look like dive houses. We don't even have to see this one. And I replied back with, no problem at all. You don't even have to go inside. But I do want to open the key box because I scheduled an appointment and I want them to know that I did come, right? Because I don't want an angry phone call. You made my clients get out of the house for a showing and you never even showed up, right? I want the Supra key box to register my e-key.
So do you have to cancel appointments, like you said?
If we're really not going to go,
Yeah.
like maybe we ran out of time or something, absolutely. Professional courtesy. Hey, the most common one is my clients fell in love with a 10 and they told me to cancel the remaining showings. Please apologize to your clients for me. That was not my intention, but they just love this one house. And they go, all right, thanks for letting me know. It's a bummer, but it happens, right? So if the house is vacant, we're going to do it right then and there before we even leave the house. Stay out of the rain, make it comfortable. Hopefully it's heated. If it's an REO, probably not, right? But at least you're out of the rain, you can take those notes. If it's occupied, don't do it in the house. There have been multiple sellers who have set up recording devices in their homes. It's highly illegal, but that doesn't stop them. And I don't want to do anything that diminishes the negotiating leverage, right? And when I say those exact words to people, right, I'll say, hey, when we get outside, I'm going to ask you some questions about your likes and dislikes. And they'll go, oh, well, I really like, and I'll go, let's wait until we get outside, and I'll tell you why when we get there. And then we go outside, and I explain, there have been multiple sellers who put in recording devices, and they're like, really? This is like espionage, right? So I gather the info in the house. If it's vacant, if it's not vacant, we'll just stand by the cars before we walk into the next house. I want to do it on the heels of seeing the house because they're going to start to blend together. Remember we talked about that earlier. Right? So how do I do that? Remember my sheets, right? This is what the sheet looks like when we finish the showing. All I do is add to it a little T-bar with a plus and a minus because I want the pros and the cons, right? The likes and the dislikes. And then I'm just going to put on here, too small, no yard, you know, love the flow, or love the, you know, 3-car garage is awesome, or whatever. They're going to have their list. I'm going to make notes, right? I'm also going to draw a circle and a line, or if it's like Saturday where they brought their 2 kids, I wanted the kids to feel involved. So I made it a cross. So all 4 people got to give me a score, 1 to 10. Right? And I'll tell them on the first one. I'll go, York, you know, the first one's always the hardest because there's nothing like to compare it to. But just give me your sense on this one, and then the next ones will become easier. And they'll go, oh yeah, okay, well, I'll give it an 8. That's a good score, right? 8's really good. 8 oftentimes ends up being the highest score of the day. So anyway, it becomes a relative game. Each house is then measured relative to the previous ones. And that's helpful because you want people to remember which one they like the best. And it's easiest done while it's fresh in their mind. Make sense? Then for showings 2 through 5, we're going to do the exact same thing. Collect their likes and dislikes, rate them all on a scale of 1 to 10, right? And then after the last showing, we're going to play King of the Hill. Who knows, or who has done King of the Hill before? Donald has, I have. Anyone else? Janice, you don't use King of the Hill?
I don't understand what King of the Hill.
All right.
I may use it.
If you don't, you should add this to your repertoire, all right? So King of the Hill goes like this. Hey Donald, we're going to play a little game. I like to call it King of the Hill. I want you to think if no new homes came on the market after today, and you had to buy one of these 5 that we saw today, which one would you say is King of the Hill? And it forces them to think through all 5 and go, well, none of them were perfect, but the one that was closest to perfect was this one. And I'll have the sheets there, and I'll say, you rated this one an 8, you gave this one a 7, but now you're telling me it's King of the Hill? Why? Well, you know, after seeing the others, we realized a big yard is more important than whatever, right? They're going to give you justification. That's all right. Just because they didn't score it the highest doesn't mean it can't be the King of the Hill, right? Now, this house is King of the Hill. Is it worth doing more research on? What am I starting to drive towards now? Are we going to be writing an offer, right? A lot of times they'll go, no. I mean, it's King of the Hill, but it's still not one we would want. That's okay. That's going to happen, right? Boom. I am going straight for the next showing appointment. I've got my phone out. All right, when should we get together to look at the next batch of houses? Get it on your calendar. I don't even have the houses picked out yet, right? But let's get it on the calendar so that both of us can know when we're going to see each other again, and then I'll email you more houses. You tell me which ones you want to see, right? What if they say yes? Now I'm going to book an appointment for the offer strategy session, right? I'm gonna do the research, we're gonna reconvene. Could we drive straight back to the office and I could do the research with them sitting there? Heck yeah, that would be ideal. I want to write offers as efficiently as I can, right? So if they say yeah, we make a plan for the offer strategy session. If they say, well, I don't know, what does that involve? That's usually the words of somebody who thinks they're being a burden on you or might be a burden on you. They need to know that they're never a burden on you, right? I would do a CMA on every house if they asked me to. I don't offer that, but if they asked me to, of course I would, right? So if they say, well, what does that involve? I go, well, I don't let any client write an offer without first performing a market analysis to see what the home's market value is, right? You see, the listing price doesn't have anything to do with the market value. So we determine that, and then we take in all the other information that's available to us, like how many business cards we saw on the counter, how long it's been on the market, etc. And then we will have an offer strategy session to see if we want to present an offer and what we want it to look like. Is this home worth it? And they're gonna, if they're lukewarm on it, they're gonna say, well, I don't want you to go through all that trouble. Hey, it's no trouble at all. This is what I do. If you think, if the numbers make sense that this is the house for you, then we should dive into the numbers, right? Most clients are gonna have a sort of a crossroads point where they're like, it's a good house, it's not perfect, but it's a good house, and if I could get it for the right amount, I would be interested. Right? That's where this comes up. And you don't want to discourage them from thinking through if it's the right house, because if it is, we want to write, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions on that? York?
I understand we all try to sell houses, but would you be honest to your client and pointing out, say, hey, this is not a good house, don't buy it.
Always.
And in the other way to gain his trust.
Always.
Always.
I'm
always
never
do that.
dishonest with my clients, and you didn't say I was, but yes, honesty is always.
Even at the point that he's almost attempting to get that house.
Yeah.
But you see the points.
And I actually have a script for it, because remember, we build a process out of around everything. I say it like this, I go, you know what, York? I would much rather have you make an informed decision not to proceed than to simply blindly proceed and regret it later. And that's why I'm bringing this to your attention, right?
Okay.
Usually it's this thing's really poorly built, right? If it's not poorly built, most anything can be addressed, right? You can't change the location, you can't change the lot, but the condition, and you can make repairs. So most houses, it's not so much that we don't want it, but we want it at a much lower price, and if we don't think the seller's gonna take it, let's try, right? I'm always trying to get you to write your first offer, and even if it's a lowball offer, right? We talked about,
As you said, yes.
yeah, we'll talk about techniques to avoid lowballing, but if it's a choice between a lowball offer or no offer, I'm gonna have you write a lowball offer then. Any other questions on this part?
And also at the end of that conversation, I always say, this is a part I don't like, or, maybe you like it, but I just want to let you know so you can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
At the end, it's your decision anyways, because you are the owner or you are the buyer.
You're the customer, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's real power in saying, hey, in the end, I'm gonna do what you asked, because I work for you. But I would like you to have all the data and information possible so that you can make an informed decision.
Ed,
Yes, Rob?
during this presentation, will you be also talking about the multiple offers people are getting? Where should I wait for my question, or?
No, I covered that last week in the writing winning offers strategy training.
Got it.
So that video is already in the can. Blake's rendering it now, and it'll be available. That was actually a really good training. It ran kind of long, but it was very thorough. But when we wrap up this video, you can ask your question if you want. What if after this conversation they go, well, we want to sleep on it? What do you say then? Okie dokie. Have a nightcap, have a cocktail, right? You're not going to tell them not to sleep on it, right? But you can give them some cautionary words.
Or you can ask if any questions or any concerns, I can give the answer.
That's right. I'm going to restate it so it's on the video because you're a soft speaker. What Janice said is, is there any questions or concerns that you have? Because I would love to address them so that when you go and sleep on it, you'll have those answers already, right? That's really powerful, right? Because there is a very good chance that they have some concern that they haven't shared with you. So you need to ask that to try and get that to come out. There are other times where you might read it that way, but really what it is they just want to talk to each other, if it's husband and wife,
Hi, this is
right?
Eric with JCC
Because they know
Investments.
it's not perfect for me, but my husband probably loves it, so I just have to see how much he loves it, and then we'll come back to it. And if I get them to say that, then I'll say, no problem, let me dive into this while you guys talk, right? Because I'm trying to be efficient again. Do you need to sleep on it? Do you want to talk, and then let's reconvene, right? I had the Saturday showings, they wanted to sleep on it. And when they woke up, they didn't want the house anymore. Bummer.
Sometimes when they say they want to sleep on it, they really want the house. It's just they're starting buyer's remorse already.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's why I want to say, while you guys talk and sleep on it, I'm going to get started on market analysis. Because the results of my market analysis could be enough to push them over to saying, yeah, let's go after it. Like if I do a market analysis, let's say it's a house that's been on the market for 21 days. That's a pretty good sign that we're not going to be in a bidding war, right? But yet the market analysis says that it's underpriced. It should have already sold. That happens. And I can share that with them. Hey, you know what? I don't know why this thing hasn't sold. This market value is clearly over 350, and they're on the market at 325. We should write. And because they've been on for 21 days, let's write under 325 because they've been on for 21 days. Let's make them pay for that. And they go, okay, yeah, that's a tipping point for them, right?
And can you explain more about what does that mean by sleep on it?
Lots of people use that as like an excuse to not make what they perceive as a difficult decision too quickly. It's not too different from when you talk to one spouse and they say, well, I don't make any decisions without talking to my other spouse. I want to sleep on it as just a way to buy time. Okay? But if they say I want to sleep on it, I'll say, hey, that's fine. What matters most to me is that you're completely comfortable with the process and my service. One thing you might want to consider is that whomever saw it yesterday slept on it last night and may be writing an offer today. We might want to present an offer with contingencies so that you now control the future of the property and they can't sell it to somebody else. And I love that people are taking pictures with typos in my slide. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Have you ever seen, I've seen listings that have that little sign in the foyer of the house where the business cards are being dropped. And it'll say the house you saw today that wanted to think about tonight, someone else saw yesterday and thought about last
Hi,
night.
this is Eric
Really?
with
Yeah.
JCC Investments. You got
I
your
love that.
message about possibly selling your home. If you're still
But the most powerful part of this is
call 206.
if we put it under contract and you have contingencies in your offer, you now control the future of that property. You've taken control away from the seller. That's the impression I want them to have. Because if they feel like they can do that without risk, they're more likely to do it, right? Even if I have zero contingencies, but I keep the Form 17 3-day right to revoke, I can do this and get them out of it without ever putting their earnest money down. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Do you think there's a percentage of people that would be swayed by that? For sure.
Will that be a little bit pushing to the client to make the offer?
Pushy? No. Selling? Yes. That's what we do.
In current market, you have to let your client know that's the situation, because last weekend I showed 2 houses, before we even read an offer, it's pending.
Yeah.
So that's money.
Yeah, don't think of it as pushy. You're actually doing a disservice if you don't point out to them how fast homes are selling.
And also use the art of language, just like ad. Just try to make things with a softer tone and it will be accepted.
Yeah, yeah. You really want to say things with the language of benefits, right? That's one of our first videos in Foundation for Success. And it basically says you need to have a benefit. You know, every third thing out of your mouth needs to be a benefit. Well, this is a benefit. Hey, you can prevent that seller from selling to somebody else. That's awesome. And if they say, yeah, but we're just not sure, I say, okay, sleep on it. I'm not going to stop them from doing that. I'm just going to point out the risks, right? Now, what would you like me to do? And they'll tell you. We still want to sleep on it. Don't even lift a finger on the market analysis because we want to sleep on it. Okay, I won't. That's a pretty good indicator that they're leaning away from that house, right? Might I still start the market analysis? You betcha, because you never know. They might sleep on it and wake up and go, you know what, we really thought twice about that house. We really like it. Well, I didn't actually do what you asked. I went ahead and did the market analysis, and here's what I found. Let's get right, right? So the wrap up, right? Showing appointment wrap up. Never, ever, ever finish a showing appointment without having an agreement for the next meeting. Whether it's an offer strategy meeting or another showing appointment or whatever. Even if you've been looking at houses for months with people and they say, I want to take a break for a year, have an agreement of when you're going to talk next, right? Hopefully it's an offer strategy session, but you got to schedule something, right? It's not hard, but it's a habit. And it's a habit that not a lot of agents have. And that is a huge failure of our industry. They're just glad the day is over. I'm tired. I just want to go. They didn't like anything we looked at today. I can't even write an offer. This sucks. Let me go home and be with my family. You have to have a little voice in your head that says, do not leave this conversation without a commitment for the next meeting. Train your brain, right? Questions?
What's REO? You mentioned earlier.
Real estate owned is what the acronym stands for. It's bank owned foreclosure. Yeah.
At any point would you preview homes before taking a client on?
I think someday I will, but after 15 years I have yet to preview any home ever. There's a lot of agents, old school, that think you should. I just never have, and it's never bitten me. I can imagine having a client that insists on it. That'll be the time that I probably do it, because I will do that, but I haven't yet.
I'm still interested in receiving an offer. Please
How about those clients that they just want you to show them the homes and not so serious to make any offer and always sleep on it all the time?
Yeah.
So what can we do about that?
You have to really understand a buyer's motivation, or lack thereof, right? And it happens. I've got a buyer that I've shown houses for 3 years. She has a house to sell. Won't sell it until she finds what she wants to move into. Well, that's only gotten harder over the last 3 years, right? But at some point, she's going to sell a house and buy a house, and I'm going to be the one that does it for her, right? But back to your specific question, what can you do to motivate them? You got to understand their emotional why, right? they're looking because something about their current situation is dissatisfying. House is too small, or the
Hi, this
kids
is
are moved
Eric
out,
with
now the house is
JCC
too big, or
Investments.
whatever, right? There's something that motivates
Selling your home.
them. You need to understand that. And if, most of the times when I'm talking to brokers where they have that frustration, they don't truly understand it. So ask yourself that.
Perhaps
And
you
then
called us back.
don't be
after
afraid to push that
postcard
nerve.
Letter we sent you,
You know,
if you recall that.
when you're in homes or when they won't go get in the car with you for a while, hey, I found another house that meets your criteria. You've not even bothered to look at the last three that I found. Is the house no longer too small? Well, no, it's not that it's too, you know, the house didn't get any bigger, right? But maybe it's something in their life changed. Now we're not, I had a client that we were looking at, you know, big $1 million houses, and I never helped them buy one because they got divorced. It happens, right? But if I'm not on the decision-making team with that client, I'm going to get blindsided by that stuff. I wasn't in that case because I am always driving to get on the decision-making team. I want to demonstrate character and confidence so that they value my opinion. I want them to go, we like this house and this house. Ed, what do you think? Right? That means I'm on the decision-making team with them. That's what I'm always driving towards. That's what you should be driving towards. So if you don't know what their emotional why is, there's no way you could get on the decision-making team, right?
How could you know a home is well built, like other than the interior things?
You can tell by the way it feels.
Anxiety, or
You can
because
tell
most
by-
of us are not construction professional.
Right.
So can we count on the information from the King County, like the construction quality, like grade 8, 9, 10? Is that count?
I would- You've been in, have you ever picked up a suitcase and felt like it was cheap, and then you picked up a Louis Vuitton and was like, wow, this is really nicely made, right? It's the same for houses.
Something that you can tell from the appearance, but something like if the foundation or.
I'm not, Veronica, I'm
Uh-huh.
going to answer your question. I understand your question. You don't
Yeah.
need to repeat your question.
Yeah, some of them.
Let me answer your question.
Uh-huh.
You ready?
Yeah.
This is on video, so I want it to be on there. All right? It's a feel thing. I gave you a technique with the cabinets that you can use without ever having swung a hammer, right? Other than that, you're going to learn what good quality materials are compared to bad quality materials. I'll give you a few examples so you can all be on the lookout. What's better, granite or granite tile? Slab granite is better than granite tile, right? That's something you can see, right? You know what granite tile looks like, right? It's squares. There's grout, there's seams. Slab granite's way better. How about slab granite that has a seam where it goes into a corner and there's a diagonal seam in that corner? That's inferior to a single piece slab granite. How about granite that,
Hello, this is
do you know what a bullnose is?
We got your message.
Have you ever grabbed an island, you know, you're at your friend's house, you grab the island, and the edge of it is round, right? That's a bullnose, that's superior, right? While I'm standing like this, I can curve my fingers underneath it. If I feel an edge, that means it's thin. If I don't feel an edge, that means it's thick. Which do you think is better? Right. Garages. You ever been in a garage where you can see the studs? You ever been in a garage that's been sheetrocked? You ever been in a garage that's been not only sheetrocked, but taped and textured? Do you know what that means? It looks like this. Just sheetrocked. It's the sheetrock is bare, but you can see
Hi, this is Eric.
spackle over all the nail heads.
We
You
got
see
your
these
message.
white
You're
blotches,
possibly
right?
selling your home.
There's 3 examples I gave you. No sheetrock, sheetrock, tape and texture. Which one do you think, which one is the most superior? the tape and textures, right? Does the consumer think of it that way? Uh-uh. Do you as a professional real estate broker? Absolutely, right?
I guess I got a number on 61st
Roofs,
Street.
what's better, shake or comp? Do you know the difference? Shake is wood, shingles. Comp is, you've seen those tiles that are like graphite, composition is what it stands for. There's a 30-year comp roof, there's a 50-year comp roof. I can tell the difference between the two from the street. You will be able to as well, right? I'm going to describe it right now. I want you to look for it the next time you're looking at houses. A 50-year roof is called a 5-tab presidential, is a typical, in this market, a very common type and brand. You can see the tabs. It makes, have you ever noticed newer roofs where if you weren't really looking at it closely, it looks like the comps are only 5 or 6 inches wide, right? And it's a little bumpier than a cheaper roof that's smoother, right? That's because the sheet might be this wide, but it's got 5 tabs, so it makes it look like it's smaller pieces and ends up looking bumpier. You can look at that from the street and go, oh, that's a 50-year roof. Hey, client, that roof looks, I mean, even if it's 2 years old, you got 48 years left. That's awesome, right? Those are all little things that you can say to people that increase their belief in your knowledge, right? And you never swung a hammer like I did, right? Yours.
I have a question. Do you ever offer the market analysis before even showing the houses?
No.
But from some
You don't want my answer?
yes.
I'm kidding. Go ahead. Finish your, I'm being funny now.
From investors' perspectives, some people like to look at numbers. For example,
That's a different client though.
Yeah, for example-
We pick the houses based on the numbers. So yes, that's not typically market analysis. That tends to be either, if it's buy and hold, it's a cash flow analysis. If it's a fix and flip, it's as is and as repaired analysis. But that's, I still will try and avoid doing a bunch of market analyses on homes that my client hasn't even said he wants.
okay, but if I am an investor or buyer, I would love to see the numbers before even heading to a place because from my point of view, like or dislike is a very objective thing.
Let's
But the
role
number-
play it. Let's role play it, right? You be the investor.
Yeah, I'm the investor. And I
What is a win for you? If we found the perfect property, what's your definition of that being perfect?
Well, I don't really care about the objective parts, like the locations, stories,
Right.
whatever the details. But if I consider it as a product, I would, like what is the median price in the radius of 3 miles? What is the interest
No,
rate?
no, I
What
didn't
is
ask
the-
my question very clearly.
Okay,
I want to know why that specific house is a win for your investment portfolio. What is it that would make you go, this house is better than that house because this one spins a minimum cash flow of X, or I bought it X% under market, or whatever. What is a win for you?
it combines of many of different aspects. I would
Yes,
say.
this role play is a unicorn. I've had that conversation 1,500 times. Never once was I unable to get the investor to tell me what his definition of a win is. How many rentals do you own personally?
Rentals, like just a couple of them back in China.
Okay. So you wouldn't talk this way to me anyway. You're being vague and innocuous because you want to get me to say, yep, for a guy like that, I would do a market analysis on all 10 homes. It just never happens. What does happen more often, York, this is for everybody, is they ultimately, I might have to ask it 3 or 4 times, but they're ultimately going to say, I focus on cap rate, or I focus on NOI, or I focus on cash flow, or I focus on appreciation, whatever, right? every investor either falls into buy and hold or fix and flip, every single one. Now, within each of those groups, there's hundreds of ways to make money, right? But they all fall into one of those two categories. So the first thing I'm doing is determining which one you fit into, because then if you're vague and innocuous like you were, I can steer you towards typical metrics that would apply to fix or flip or buy and hold, right? Once I've done that, now it's easy. Let's say we ended up in buy and hold, because you said, yeah, well, I want to keep them long term. Okay. Are you focused on net rental positives only? Or is cash flow neutral okay because the appreciation is going to benefit you? You're going to give me your opinion, right? All of that is going to drive me towards how I'm going to search for properties that fit that definition of a win. And in that scenario, I'm able to send you a spreadsheet of houses without having to do a full-blown market analysis on every house. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And then we go, I'll send them to you. I'll even sort them. Let's say it's cap rate. I can export 200 houses out of the MLS, insert a formula and a column, calculate a cap rate on every one of those houses, and then sort it by highest to lowest and tell you, okay, pick the top 10, and I'll do a deeper analysis on those. And you're going to be appreciative because I sent you 200. You don't want me to do it on 200, but you'd love me to do it on 10. Then I'll do it on 10. And I still might not do a full-blown market analysis. I'll just do a deeper analysis on those 10, which shows us that 3 or 4 of them are the real winners, and then I'll do market analyses on those, or something like that, right? We're a team, and I'm driving towards your goal. I just have to better understand your goal. And sometimes the investor doesn't understand his goal either.
So you have two different strategies, two groups of people, like buyer for himself or truly investor.
Yeah, you treat them differently. You're still, the fundamental service is the same, but you talk to them differently. Because like you started your role play with, I don't care about location and this and that and the other. It's all economics, right? I want something to be a win, and here's what I define as a win.
Thank you.
That was a great question. Thank you.